I call the Tuesday, June 3rd, 2025 City of Clermont Planning and Zoning Commission to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Tydona?
Present.
Commissioner May?
Present.
Commissioner Kobe?
Here.
Commissioner Nemec?
Present.
Commissioner Bain?
Here.
Commissioner Kramer?
Here.
Commissioner Hoisington?
Okay. Before we move any further, I would just like to welcome back Ray to City Hall and working with us here on the Planning and Zoning Commission, and I believe also the Code Enforcement Board, and working with our city staff in the Planning and Development Office. And also in the audience with us tonight, I'd just like to give special recognition and thanks for attending to our new still, right? Deputy City Manager, Mr. Dan Mathis, who's here to observe the meeting tonight as well. So again, formally from us here in Planning and Zoning Commission, welcome to Clermont. With that, if you would please rise and stand as you are able for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. With that, we will move to approval of the May 6, 2025 minutes. All of you should have received those. Are there any questions? And if not, is there a motion for approval?
I motion approval of the minutes.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Hoisington, seconded by Commissioner Colby. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Minutes are approved, 7-0. We will move to reports. Before we start with reports, because I know we may have some questions, I just would like to, if we could, start with our city attorney, Mr. Waugh, to give us an update on some conversation we had at our last Planning and Zoning Commission meeting and what you're planning for our next Planning and Zoning Commission meeting regarding some procedures and processes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, at the last meeting, we had a fairly robust but unscheduled discussion on some rules and things that, I understand some commissioners are not happy with. So what I did is I prepared a set of rules and policies that would enable you, if you so chose, to do site visits and to have certain discussions. That would be up for consideration. It's been drafted at your July meeting. So it's been reviewed. I've discussed it with staff. It'll be up for y'all to talk about and discuss, and it'll be presented then.
Okay. Thank you very much. So we'll have a noticed agenda item for commissioners and for the public to talk a little bit about processes and procedures and commissioners visiting sites for items that are before us and other conversations related to agenda format and flow of the meetings, so that we can kind of talk a little bit about that now that we're halfway through this year with this current commission. With that, we will move to commissioner reports, and tonight we will start with Commissioner May.
The only thing I have to report is that at the last city council meeting I did as a resident, did do a presentation or spoke on the need of an updated comprehensive plan at the May 27th. And so I wanted just to see if there is a possibility, and I believe the city council was I guess, positive about it, and that there will be a workshop in regards to the downtown, which would probably be a separate overlay as part of the comprehensive plan. But I just wanted to let you all know that I did that. And I was going to speak on the workshop on growth management. I did not go to it, but I hope that someone here did go and can speak on that. So in regards to any other reports, that is it for today.
Thank you. Commissioner Colby.
I did attend the growth management session. I did not stay as long as our chair did, so I'll let him report on that. But it's some interesting discussion in talking about becoming a charter county. So pros and cons with that, but I'll let our chair make any remarks if he should choose. The only other thing is I just want to make people aware that we do have our Jerk Festival this Saturday at 12 o'clock at the Clermont Waterfront Park. So I hope people will come out and attend.
Thank you. Commissioner Nemec.
Thank you, Chairman. I want to say a big hello to Assistant Manager Dan Last time we had somebody show up at the council meeting from the third floor, didn't go too well for me. So hopefully, no, it's okay, you could stay, I'm not. that way. I am a little taken back still, and it's my report, so I'm entitled to say this. All right, I'm just gonna try to hit the bullet points, because I did bring this up at the city council meeting. Okay? At the May 13th city council meeting, all right, there was an introduction with the Heritage Square, Florida rezoning that came across the planning and zoning. It was an introduction. Introduction needs to be voted on if it's going to move forward or if it's going to be denied and stuck right where it is. Okay? During the discussion, before the vote, Councilman Peterson inquired, why did the planning and zoning deny it 6-1? That's 1 point. And then Councilwoman Strange seconded that by saying, well, we have the chairperson, Mr. Baines, sitting in the audience. At that point, the mayor turned around, and this is what I was appalled by. He said, quote for quote, it doesn't make a difference, it's an intro. Okay? Obviously, he has to learn the Robert's Rule of Order even better. Okay? Because an intro should be voted on, if it goes forward or not. Actually, Councilman Howard asked the counselor, who's here tonight with us, for justification on it. And he said something that sparked me, which pretty much, if there's going to be any major changes, you rather have it at the first discussion, not the second, so we don't have to send another notice out. Am I correct by saying that, Councilman?
That's a fair summary.
Okay, it's a synapse. You know, if I'm off by a word or two, I'm just, you excuse me with my age and my memory. Okay, so I'm just appalled by the council on May 13th that nobody else challenged it because the mayor said it. Okay, and the mayor's been doing it this way for 20 years, he stated for a fact. Just because you do something for 20 years doesn't mean that's the way it goes. See, I'm trying to explain that we are, number one, an advisory committee. There's 7 sets of eyes up here. There's 7 ways to look at an applicant. Sometimes we don't agree. If you don't believe me, you could ask my fellow commissioner, Mr. Kramer. So there's a lot of times he sees it one way and I see it the opposite way. But at the end of the night, we go home and we still respect each other. All right? The P&Z, like I said, were all volunteers. What touched me on that was something that Commissioner, and I'm trying to be short, Tadona said during his speech. He said, and stop me, I think I got that screwed up, but he said something to the fact, there's nothing stronger than a volunteer's heart. Okay? We applied for this position from Paula straight down the line to John. Okay? And we take pride in being up here and looking every day when we get our packet, okay, and reading it and doing research, okay? Our sole responsibility tonight, to me, on that day was ignored, and I was really laid back. But I said, okay, let bygones be bygones, okay? And I even said that night, the next meeting, I said, are we up here just to fulfill a mandate? Are we wasting our time doing all our work? And I've been on this board going on 6 years now, and I actually had the directors of planning and zoning come up to me and say, I never thought about that. That was a good catch. Several times. A lot of commissioners come up with some good catches that I don't even understand. But see, I'm just a little upset by the words of our leader, which is our mayor, who's the chairperson, okay? And I don't know what's going on with him lately, from arguing with council members, verbally attacking our city manager. What are we on his hit list next, just to ignore us? I'm not here to waste my time. I'm not. And I take pride being up here. And what hurt me the most on the last council meeting on May 27th, the same 5 individuals at the first council meeting on May 13th, we're at the second. Out of the 5 people that were there, 3 of us went up to that microphone. And we kind of let the mayor know that, listen, your words hurt us. Okay? I was a little taken back when 2 of our council members just sat back and said nothing. I'm not here to attack anybody, but Mr. Baines, I'm very little disappointed in you, because the person that sat in your seat before you, Max, he stood up for the P&Z. Right or wrong, he went up to the council, either individually or in public, and stood up and not put his head between his legs. Okay? Rumor has it you're running for council, and I think you're a good qualification. But I'm just a little concerned, if you didn't stand up for the planning and zoning, how are you going to stand up for the citizens of Clermont? So please, be a leader, like I voted for you to be in that chair. End of reports. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kramer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before we begin tonight, I'd like to take a moment just to thank my fellow commissioners for your patience, and I continue to learn and grow in this role. I know my passion for certain issues sometimes comes through strongly, and I want to make it clear. It's never my intention to offend or make anything personal. I truly value the respect and dialogue we've maintained as a board. However, at our last meeting, I did cast the lone vote in favor of an item that the commission ultimately voted down 6-1. And I know that when City Council later voted in favor of that item, it definitely caused some frustration with the board. But we are an appointed advisory board, and I say that, advisory board, tasked with holding public hearings and making recommendations. City Council is the elected body and has the final authority, and I respect their decision, even when it differs from our own. And I'll continue to support the process that gives our residents both a voice and accountability through their elected officials. I'm grateful to be a part of this commission, and I look forward to tonight's probably robust discussion. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Hoisington.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't really have a report, but I did listen, go back and review, because I had a conflict. I didn't attend the last council meeting, and I was there for the first one. And I hear everything that my fellow commissioners are saying. And I see our responsibility as that, to bring a recommendation based on the information that's provided to us. I myself don't take it personal when the council may disagree with us, because as long as we have reviewed, discussed, and voted, we've done our part. We're not going to always agree with the actions that are taken, and I take the attitude that was a part of the process. And that I ask us as a planning and zoning commission that we always keep that in the forefront, that we are part of a process. As long as we are provided the information that we need from staff, that we review that information that's given before us, not add to it, not the what ifs, or it could be, but make a decision based on the information that's provided and move on and not take it personal. We're not going to always agree with each other, as you said, but when we close the door and we walk out, we are one. We should be one. We should be one. That's my opinion. And when it goes before the council, if they disagree with us, that's the process. Some of them we're going to agree with, and some of them we will not. But that's how government works. And I just ask that we all each take that into consideration, that not to take it personal, but to take it as your duty as a volunteer. We give our time, our talent, and our treasure, and that's what we're here for.
Thank you. Commissioner Tadona.
Good evening, Chair, fellow commissioners. So I finished the Ohio State University Planning and Zoning course. It's a basic course. It does not make me a subject matter expert by a long shot. There's still lots for me to learn. But it has prompted me to kind of look and listen a little bit more to what we're doing, question stuff, point out stuff, dive a little bit more into local news, and just see what kind of a voice I could be for Clermont residents. So one of the many things that came across my travels, in our comp plan, section 10, policy 1.1.1, we have that 10 acres of open space, relaxation space should be set aside for every 1,000 residents. So as of early 2025, the population of Clermont was 52,145 people. I'm just curious, what is the accounting for the 521.45 acres that are set aside? Is it set aside? Is it part of our parks? Is it encompass a lake? How could I find out where that property is? And going forward, I'm just wondering, and again, this might be just off the top of my head, if I, as a developer, am putting in 300 homes, and there's going to be approximately 4 people per home, which is going to increase our population by 1,200 people, how am I held accountable to set aside 10.2 acres? How does that work? Does it have to be on the HOA set aside? Am I giving 10 acres? Am I buying 10? So I'm just kind of curious how, as we're growing as a city, and it's in our comp plan, that we're also going to be putting land aside that's not going to be touched. How is that land accounted for, and do we get to go see it? You know, can I go take a look at it and touch it? Or is there some sort of a ledger that says this land is put aside? I reached out to Groveland's Community Redevelopment Agency, and the reason why I did so is my sister and my brother-in-law are moving out to Groveland to a place called Trinity Park, so I went to go take a ride with my brother-in-law. And yes, the houses are one on top of the other, typical HOA. However, they have a lot wider streets, they have guest parking, they have a dog run, they've got open spaces, they got a 7.12 mile walking path, biking path. So one of the first answers I got back is that, you know, these are our design standards out in Groveland going forward. And I'm going to harp on this because I feel that it's kind of necessary, design standards and things like that. So design standards work. Well, my question to Groveland's Community Redevelopment Agency is, how did you deal with the pushback from the developers? You know, and what did you have to do to convince them that this is the way things go? Speaking of development, as you probably know, it was in the news, Osceola kicked in their new mobility fee. So now you've got developers scrambling to put in permits before that fee kicks in. I'm also of the opinion, especially since last city council meeting, we talked about the comp plan and how we might need 12 to 18 months to come up and renew our comp plan. I'm also of the opinion that I think a 12-month moratorium on all new developments would give us time to have our infrastructure catch up to our traffic. It would give us time to get the basics of a comp plan down. And it would give us time to speak to a county like Highlands County as to how they're succeeding with third-party traffic surveys and mobility fees so that we could make the money and hold the developers accountable to putting a stake in Clermont. For those of you who may have missed it, in July of 2024, Dalton Studios conducted a historic property survey of Clermont. Interestingly enough, according to the Florida Department of State, only 2 buildings in the downtown district are on the National Registry, which is mind-boggling. But the 5 recommendations that Dalton Studios came up with was to start a historic preservation committee and board. I've reached out to, I think it's called Clermont Streets, 3 times. I'm just trying to get a hold of somebody there to see how I can help. Recommendation 2, define and branding identity. Recommendation 3, promote heritage tourism, food sampling, local B&Bs, maybe some tours. Public art as a form of ownership, promote foot traffic. We love those 2 words, foot traffic. And update historical buildings and repurposing. Last but not least, and I have some handouts to accompany this, I had mentioned at one of the previous meetings that the Florida DOT has a free 6-part Green Book training. And I know that Florida DOT, their regulations really only apply to state roads, I get that. But there's a lot of good stuff that you could cull from these videos. And one of the things that I had to kind of giggle at, but it's definitely serious, is Florida DOT does a lot of what they call traffic forecasting. And that leads into having these line of sight, LOS regulations in place. And what a line of sight regulation basically suggests is as you are coming around a turn or coming up over a crest of a hill, the speed that you need to be at so that after you make that turn or crest that hill, you have enough reaction time to slow down to what's in front of you. So I kind of wonder with the traffic that's in Clermont, if we give a lot of time and thought to how people need to stop instead of just trying to get there. So part of my example is I live in Fox Chase HOA. I live on top of what us locals call Panic Ridge Road by where the new Sprouts is coming in. On the street sign says Hammock Ridge Road, but it's actually Panic Ridge Road. When you're coming up Panic Ridge Road from 27, you're accelerating to about 45 miles an hour. By the time you get to the crest of the hill, the line of sight to the apartment complex, the entrance and exit, you're right on top of it doing 45 miles an hour with a bunch of cars behind you. So even if you had a panic stop, it's going to be a problem. And I know I'm talking about one-offs. On the other side, if you're coming down Panic Ridge Road, where the police station is now to your right, you don't see that brand new intersection of how we're going to get to the hotel and the store and everything else down there until you're right up on top of it. And we've already had 2 accidents there. Because all it takes is somebody from either coming out of the apartment or coming up from Sprouts to be lingering inside that intersection, and you're going to be all over the place. Again, I understand that Panic Ridge Road is not governed by the Florida DOT, but when you're coming down the hill towards the light, that turn abuts what's known as a critical and non-transferable slope. So if, God forbid, somebody jumps the curb, jumps the sidewalk, without any kind of guardrail, that vehicle could wind up on the Sprouts' roof. So my handouts, if you'd be so kind, if you want to are really just some articles that I found about how other counties and cities in Florida are trying to cope with a population boom and longer response times. There's an article about how Florida is now rated the second state in terms of the worst traffic in the United States. So it's concerning to me because I think we have an opportunity to make a difference. I've also included the Florida Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles Crash Dashboard. And I don't know if you know this, but in 2024, there were 50 fatalities just in Lake County alone. There were over 5,000 crashes. There were over 4,500 injuries just from accidents, not necessarily all due to traffic, but in 2025, we're well on our way to break that record, which I don't think there's anything proud to be that. So thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you. On to my report, kind of just piggybacking on what a couple commissioners already talked about. Lake County is doing currently some growth management workshops, and I did attend the first workshop yesterday, the Charter County workshop. This is an opportunity, I guess, for the county to consider whether or not they want to be a charter county. Some of the items that could come with that would allow them some abilities to dictate say how many seats are on the county board, if they were voted on just by district versus by county at large, if they were partisan races versus nonpartisan. And then there's some a little bit more substantive types of things as well, relative to deciding whether all county ordinances would kind of over supersede or kind of overlap municipalities, in the sense that they would set the minimum standard, but municipalities could go stronger. They could do that carte blanche. They could do that very targeted and say only X, Y, and Z ordinances apply countywide, but then municipalities get to decide the rest. So there are a lot of factors that go into whether or not a county would become a charter county, and how many there are here in the state. I think the last one that transitioned from a non-charter to charter was like 2008. So this isn't something that like happens all the time in the state. That is available online for folks. It was about 2 hours. So if you want to watch it, you can go to the county's website. In addition to that, if you go to Lake County's website, you can get to the growth management page. And on that growth management page, I believe it's just lakecountyfl.gov/growth. There's a survey. They just uploaded a survey that you can participate in and provide input on policies that impact Lake County's future. That's directly from their website. Links to like the agendas and the actual workshop is also available, so you can watch it from there. And then the schedule for the next coming ones, Tuesday, June 10th, Monday, June 23rd, and Monday, June 30th. Now, the Tuesday, June 10th is actually during our next city council meeting. It's at the county one's at 2, our city council's at 3, so that does conflict a little bit there. And then the other 2 are at times that are not times where there are other city meetings. So I did email Commissioner Parks today to find out, because 2 of the next 3 are not in the chambers of the county board, and I was worried about whether or not they would be recording those and have those accessible. He did confirm that Lakefront TV, which is who does their accessibility of recordings after the fact. I don't know if they record during, but I know that they stream them and they're available. Lakefront TV will have them available, and they're also trying to get some additional options as well available for those other meetings. So we should be able to, as citizens of Lake County, be able to either attend and or watch live and or after for that. So I encourage folks to take part of that. And that kind of ties into the next conversation. Commissioner May, you brought it up too. The city council did have a conversation at the last meeting about the city's comprehensive plan, and our staff here that works with us works directly with that. It had been put on pause. And so we are, I think the city council is giving direction to city staff to reignite that and bring that back and start that process again. So obviously that's something that will be critically important to all of us as we deal with the decisions that are before us related to planning and zoning, but also just as citizens to understand where the direction of our community is, because it's not just planning and development, it's housing, it's transportation, it's economics, it's jobs, and so those are all parts of the comprehensive plan. So I encourage folks to be a part of that and watch for more information, because I think there was 1 or 2 sessions maybe last year, the year before, that we started, and then the council kind of paused that a little bit direction-wise. So I'm glad to see that that's coming back. Just to comment about the last council meeting. I think that, city councils, whether it's good or bad or indifferent, city councils are a political board. There's going to be politics involved at a city council. And I think that, sometimes people are going to say things that we agree with or don't agree with as an advisory board. And as citizens, we have an ability to be upset or be supportive of that, and then make those decisions when we vote. But also as a planning and zoning commission, I do think it's in our purview to make sure that we understand our role and that the council understands the commitment that we put into what we do. And sometimes they are going to make decisions that go completely against what we recommend. And that is definitely within their purview to do. And certainly to the point, I was prepared and ready to speak, as I have at every council meeting where asked as the chair of this board, of this commission, where a council member has asked me to come up and speak, I've spoken. And not as an individual commissioner, but as the chair, just to report what is happening. And so I am, to me, it was at a portion of a meeting where it was in the hands of the city council whether or not they wanted me up there, and they didn't invite me up. And so I'm not going to yell out from the audience and break what I think is proper decorum to do that, to come up there. I think we as a commission should be above what was displayed at the recent council meeting by multiple members of the city council in terms of decorum or respect or collegiality and cooperation with each other. And I certainly would not want to see us delve into being a political board. I understand we are part of city government, but I don't think we need to be a political board in the sense of digging each other and digging on other people in the community. I think we're better than that. I think Clermont's better than that. And I hope that we can hold ourselves to a higher standard and accountability. So with that, we'll move into new business. And we have 2 items on tonight's agenda. Items number 1 and 2. We're going to hear these together but vote separately because they are 2 different ordinances. And so we have item number 1, 963 West Juniata Street, SSCPA. This is to consider a small-scale comprehensive plan amendment from medium-density residential to residential office. And then item number 2, 963 West Juniata Street, conditional use permit, CUP, a consideration for a request of a conditional use permit to allow professional office in R3 residential professional zoning district. Hopefully, commissioners realize that this wasn't something brand new. We did hear some related items to this a couple of meetings ago. But this is back under some different ordinances, so we'll turn it over to Mr. Cruz.
Thank you, Mr. Bain. Good evening, Planning and Zoning Commissioners and guests. John Cruz, Development Services. This is agenda items 1 and 2, 963 Juniata Street. It is a small-scale comprehensive plan amendment and conditional use permit. The applicant, Dr. Handy, is requesting a small-scale comprehensive plan amendment for the subject property located at 963 West Juniata Street. The single-family home was constructed in 1954 and is approximately 1,550 square feet of conditioned space. Dr. Handy would like to convert the home into a medical office for audiology practice. And on the screen is pictures of the property. This is looking, here, let me start here. This is the property. And another zoom in picture of the property. This is looking towards the east of the property line. And this is looking towards the west of the property line. And I'll put on the aerial photograph as well. The size of the property is approximately 1/4 of an acre. This request is being heard concurrently with a request for a conditional use permit to allow office use in the existing R3 residential professional zoning. And again, outlined in yellow is the property we'll be discussing tonight. And this is just the site location with the parcels surrounding it. The small-scale comprehensive plan amendment would change the future land use from medium-density residential to residential office. The requested medical office use is not a designated use in the medium-density residential land use. The medical office use would be allowable in the residential office future land use per policy 1.7.1 of the city's future land use element. And again, this is the parcel, and it's currently medium density residential, and the request is to change it to residential office. Within the city block 98, which is the dashed line, and I'll zoom in. Again, this is the city block 98. The current future land uses are downtown mixed use, which is here on the corner. medium-density residential, which is the lighter tan, and then finally residential office, which is the darker brown. One existing parcel within the block is currently designated as residential office future land use, and that would be located right here. The proposed medical use would be similar to the existing office use and would be bordered by medium-density residential and downtown mixed use. The proposed residential office future land use would provide a more appropriate transition from medium-density residential instead of the downtown mixed use, since downtown mixed use may allow more intense uses. Staff is in support of the small-scale comprehensive plan amendment to change the future land use from medium-density residential to residential office. Staff recommends approval of ordinance 2025-022. And that concludes the small-scale comp plan amendment. Then we'll go back to the aerial. We'll focus on this one here. The applicant is requesting a conditional use permit in order to convert the home into a medical office. She intends on using the existing footprint of the house with no plans for additions at this time. Dr. Handy will work on site by herself, and the hours of operation will be 10 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. Tuesday through Thursday. She will only see one patient at a time. She would like to add a few parking spaces in the city's right-of-way in front of the property for her clients, similar to the adjacent dentist's office to the east. Public Services has reviewed her proposal and did not see any concerns based upon the submittal. More detailed engineering specifics would be required at the site plan approval stage. And this is a snapshot of the zoning. Again, this is the R3 zoning here, residential professional with the essential business district adjacent. The current zoning is R3 residential professional under section 125-250. Conditional uses of the R3 residential professional zoning code. Professional offices may be allowed, including doctor's offices. Under section 125-247, the purpose of the R3 district provides for those professional services not in direct conflict with the residential usage and which do not generate traffic of such a nature as to require industrial or commercial zoning. Due to the nature of a one-on-one doctor-client setting, the small office space and the provision of 5 parking spaces, the medical office is not expected to generate a significant amount of traffic over the current residential volumes. Let me zoom out a bit. This one's, and this is the site plan prepared by the engineer. With the current placement of the structure and the lot dimensions, adding spaces on the current zoning designation is impossible due to the land development code requirements. The applicant is requesting 2 special conditions as part of the conditional use permit application. The first special condition is to only add 5 parking spaces instead of the required 8 parking spaces. 5 spaces can be added in front of the existing building. Again, here's the building. These are the 5 parking spaces. And then here's Juniata Street to the north. The second special condition is to use a portion of the city's right-of-way to allow construction of the parking spaces. While a majority of the spaces are within the property, a small portion of the spaces will be in the city's right-of-way. Staff has reviewed the applicant's proposal and has no evidence that granting the conditional use permit at this location would be compatible with the uses in the area. The adjoining property to the east is a medical office, and the property to the south is a house of worship. In addition, within this city block, Block 98, there are a few older single-family homes, an accounting office, and a duplex. The accounting office has the same zoning, which is operating under a conditional use permit granted in 1990. The proposed use is in conformance with the proposed future land use of a residential office. It does not appear to be detrimental to the health, safety, or general welfare of persons residing or working in the vicinity. Staff supports the request for a conditional use permit with the 2 special conditions and recommends approval of Resolution 2025-011R. That concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you. Is the applicant present? Would you like to come forward and state your name and address for the record and present whatever materials you'd like us to consider?
Good evening, Robert Walker. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commission members. Robert Walker with Burkett Engineering, 105 East Robinson Street, Orlando, Florida. We have worked with Mr. Cruz for a couple of months now on this. As you know, we went a different direction, but now we're going this direction, and we've read their staff report. We're in agreement with their findings, and we're just here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. If you would, please just stick around in case we do
Sure.
have questions.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. This is a portion, this is the portion of the meeting for a public hearing on items number 1 and 2. Ordinance number 2025-022-963 West Juniata Street, SSCPA, and item number 2, resolution 2025-011R, 963 West Juniata Street, CUP. Is anyone here in the audience who wishes to speak on this item? If so, please come forward to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and please limit your remarks to the items at hand and no more than 3 minutes. Again, is there anyone here in the audience that would like to speak to item number 1 and 2 on the agenda? Okay. Seeing no one, we will bring it back to the commission, and we will start with Commissioner May, please.
Thank you. So we're looking at both items, right? For the number 1 and 2, because it's.
That is
concurrently?
correct. In order to do number 2, number 1 needs to be approved.
Got it. Well, I'm happy that this came back, as I was one of the no votes recommending this to come back as a residential office. So I'm glad that I see that, and it has come in front of me as that. I do have a question, though, in regards to the previous, the accounting office that was done on this section here. When did that get changed?
1990.
1990.
Yeah.
And I see on that report, I see on the aerial, that they really don't have parking spaces, they just have a driveway that's kind of enlarged, correct? So as part of the 1990, were they required to have the 8 parking spaces as the residential office, or is that?
I couldn't answer that question because that was dependent on the square footage of the building at that time and the parking regulations at that time, which, you know, the parking regulations have changed in the last couple of years here, but they do have some on-site parking just looking at the aerial photography, but I couldn't tell you the specifics on it.
And it's a corner as well. Can you show the language on the comprehensive plan for everybody to show medium-density residential and then residential office? You don't have that?
No, I don't have the comprehensive plan with me, but I
Okay.
can get it with Kurt.
Yeah, so basically, medium-density residential only allows for residential and having.
Office.
Correct, so, and no office on the.
On the medium residential, yes, that is only for residential. That is why they are moving forward with the residential office future land
For them
use.
to do that,
That is correct.
right. And you've already answered the question about the accounting office that was done in 1990. Now, the church itself, did they also have to go through a CUP, or was that? I'm just trying to get the timeline of all the changes on that.
That church has been existing for a long time, so I can't answer that question.
And they don't have a change in their zoning. It still shows as medium density, correct? In the
The future land use is still medium density
medium
residential.
density on that?
Yep.
And they did not have to require it since it says medium density residential, but they're a church.
Churches are allowed to go in a variety of land uses and zoning. They're pretty much allowed to go into any zoning category with a conditional use permit. So there are some relief for houses of worship. That's what we're
Okay.
called. So again, that church has been there a very long time, probably predated the current zoning codes.
But we don't know when, so it was probably before the 1990. Okay.
Yes, definitely before the 1990.
Okay, and then the dentist office, when was that changed? I'm just trying to get a timeline.
You know, it's probably changed in the last 10 years.
10 years, okay.
Again, I was only focusing on the subject parcel at hand tonight, so that is where we,
Yeah, no, there's gonna be a reason why I'm
So-
bringing that up. So it's, like I said, I'm glad that you all came back and kind of going through with the zoning that R3 does allow through the conditional use permit, a medical office. But my question to you all, staff and city, is the intention of that block that we're looking at, is the intention of that block, because we're gonna probably get more of these conditional use permits, because the more that we're allowing offices, is the intention of the city, is this going to be a residential mixed-use section in the future as an overlay or a medical office? I mean, it just to me, you know, I've talked to Kurt about this, about spot zoning. I just don't know where this is going in the future. So are we looking to,
until the comprehensive plan is updated, right now, the comprehensive plan identifies as a medium-density residential, but again, applicants have the right to petition the city for a change, and that's where we're at tonight with this, so.
right?
But in terms of the future, on the future land use map, it does show this area as medium-density residential. So-
Got it. And then that goes into my next question in regards to notice. On this particular property, the notice is how? It's put in the daily commercial, which I usually don't look at. But is there a letter sent out to a specific radius, and is there a sign posted on the property?
There is a sign posted on the property, and our code requires 150 feet from the property line. And we normally mail out an additional 50 feet, so it goes out 200 feet from the property line.
Got it. And what I would like to see in the future, if possible, and I'm telling you, code enforcement, the code enforcement inspectors do a great job, as being on the code enforcement board before. They show a copy of the ad, not only just the ad, but they show a copy of the notice on the property, which I would like to see if maybe in the future we can have
Okay.
that as well in our package, as well as a copy of the notice that goes out to the residents, even though we don't want the resident labels, because I don't know if that would be appropriate. I'm just asking you, but just something to show that, to have it in our files and for the
I
public
think
to
I
know.
understand what you're saying. You're saying that just like when we have a code case, we normally introduce evidence that proper notice was given, usually a picture of posting, as well as a copy of the delivery or the certified receipt, something like that, or all of that? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, something like that, just because it just seems like there's not a lot of people that show up. And I just want to make sure that we are following process, which we are, because I'm not saying that we're not. But it would be great to have that in our files and in public record, that, that the residents are informed, because I'm just scared that, going forward, this whole neighborhood, this neighborhood's been around for a while, I'm looking at this, house next door, and they're gonna have a parking lot next door, so I just wanna make sure that proper notice was sent out, and that's a good thing for all of us, especially a city, to make sure that's in record.
We'll talk about that.
Okay, perfect. But other than that, I have, one more question on the picture of the plans that the engineer has done. The purpose of the easement, the front easement, is it due to the fact they have to drive over the grass, number one? And number two, is that a sidewalk that I see that they're adding as part of the requirements?
That is correct. They
Okay.
would be required to add a sidewalk. In terms of, I'm still trying to understand your first question. There's no way they could pull around the back because of fire code.
Right.
They need a minimum access drive, and there's no way they could fit that in there. So that is why they proposed
asking-
doing it up front.
Right, they're asking for the 5 versus the variance from 8 to 5.
That is correct.
Okay, and that is a sidewalk, right? I guess I'm assuming that's just the handicap that's allowed there. Okay. Now, is there anything else that is required for the building itself, handicap, accessibility, all that? That's gonna be all,
That's something that when they come through site review, our building department will take a look at it, but they are showing an ADA accessible space and a route into the building. And again, that is something that they designed for the parking in order to meet that. But in terms of the actual building, that's something that is totally handled by the building department. There'll be a change of use from residential to office commercial use, so there'll be some requirements needed interiorly, or in the interior of the building, but that's handled by the building department and be done at that time.
Perfect. And then the question to the owner, it's specifically only for office. You will not be living on the site, correct? I think you answered it in the last meeting, but
My name is Dr. Blair Handy. My residence is 104 Blackstone Creek Road in Groveland, Florida. And no, I will not be living on the property. I live in Groveland. It will be only for professional use.
perfect. Thank you very much for that. And I'm pretty sure everybody else might have more questions, but as of now, that's all I have for now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Colby.
I think in a growing city, and given the proximity to downtown, changes like this are necessary. And just as we hope that the city council puts weight in what we have to say, I put some weight in what our staff has to say. And I believe our staff has really worked to create a good proposal here. So I am in support of both ordinances.
Thank you. Mr. Nemec.
Very well, excuse me, very well said, Commissioner Kobe. I do have several questions. It wouldn't be me if I didn't. I'm sorry. To piggyback off of Commissioner May, I'm going to say one word, gentrification, because that's what this is starting to look like, the entire downtown. All right, and I don't like that, but I can't cast my vote on that. Okay. John, you showed a picture. I believe it was the west of the property. Could you show that picture again, please? There you go, perfect. If you could just get the east and west together, because there you go. All right, well, zoom out. There you go. Sorry, John. All right, I'd like to ask, well, actually, the applicant or the applicant's attorney. As you can see on the bottom one, all right, there is really no landscaping there at all. I'll wait till you get to the microphone. I'm sorry, sir. Okay, if you could see the picture, you see
Right.
on the bottom one, there's
Yeah.
no landscaping there, okay? Are you planning to put, I asked this last time,
Right.
you plan to put landscaping there?
Yeah, we're gonna put landscaping there
Are
based
you
on the
plan-
code. and-
I'm sorry, that's my fault. I shouldn't have interrupted you. Go ahead.
Pardon me?
You answer your question, sir. Are you planning to put landscaping? And the second part of that question was, what's the height of the landscaping?
I believe, I'm not a landscape architect, but I believe it's 3 feet. And that's at code at planting, don't forget. I mean, it's gonna grow.
Well, that's my
Yeah.
part of that question is, will you allow it to grow? John, if you could just slide that picture down. You see the dentist office? He had a lot of respect for that neighbor, that resident. He let that grow close to 6 to 8 feet. So this way, when the person walked out that door, they didn't look at a parking lot. They
Right.
looked at shrubbery. That was my initial question last time, which you refused to answer. I mean, could you give me that answer tonight so I could base my decision?
I don't really, I mean, I'm just gonna go by what the code requires, and if we wanna do a little extra, I mean, I don't think the client
Good
would
enough,
have a
sir.
problem with that. She would let it grow
Well,
up to.
Would you like to say
6
something,
feet.
ma'am? Because this is going to be based on my decision.
So yes, initially we'll definitely meet code, but we don't have a problem letting it grow. I do want to point out that I had mentioned this here. This to John. There is a power line here that's attached to the house that we recently cut some shrubbery that was on the fence that was close to the power line. So that'll be something that we keep in mind for the height. I don't think it could actually grow as tall as on the other side where the dentist's office is
That's a
because
good
of that.
point.
So that's something to keep in mind, but I have no problem planting it at code, and then if it grows, I have no problem maintaining that.
That's exactly
not a
what I
problem.
wanted to hear last time.
Yeah, that's not a
I
problem.
wish you would have said that. Okay, thank you very much for that answer. All right, but the reason why I'm saying that is because the dentist, to piggyback off of Commissioner's May, the dentist office next to your building is pretty much the parking is behind it, the building. This is the parking is going to be in the front. So that person, the resident, they're not here, obviously, they would have came up to the microphone. I noticed that they just bought that house, or the house was for sale and it was pending. So I don't know if there's somebody new in there, because I'm not allowed to go there and all that other good stuff. So I do have a problem with the 5 parking spots, not 8. Because my question is, what happens if it gets approved? Now it gets approved and she wants to move to a different location for her business. They sell it. What happens now? Somebody else goes in here that's doing a lot more than what she's doing. That is my question to staff. Can we vote on it again for a new person?
To answer your question, conditional use permits are required to be recorded with the clerk of the court.
I couldn't hear you.
The conditional use permits are required to be recorded with the clerk of the court. So whenever there's a pending transaction, real estate transaction, they do a title search, it will come up in the title search. And it should tell them they have 5 parking spaces and they should see the CUP. That is why we started having them recorded several years ago. Now, to answer your question, if someone wants to purchase it and it becomes an issue, there could be some no parking signs put on the street. But again, that's not for me to decide. That's something for another department and council to decide. But hopefully they would have a good business plan to figure out, hey, this isn't going to work for me.
Thank you for the answer, John, because that was my concern, is like somebody else comes in. I mean, I wish nothing but the best for this doctor, and obviously what she's doing is a unique service in this town. And she might grow faster and might need a bigger office. And that's why I'm just looking for the future, because I don't have to explain to you, we have a parking problem in that area. Okay, just one question about the garbage. Medical waste. How much medical waste would you be using? 0? So in other words, could you please, just for the record, ma'am, I'm sorry.
No, none, no medical waste.
So
The medical waste bin will not be necessary.
no gloves, no needles, it's just basically a headphone and
Yeah, headphone.
just like the ears, nose, and throat doctor, right?
Well, nope, not ear, nose, and throat.
No, I'm just saying when you go for the hearing.
Right.
All right, yeah. Okay, great, thank you. All my questions were asked. Thank you, Commissioner. No more?
Thank you. Commissioner Kramer?
Thank you, Chairman Bain. I appreciate the applicant's clear intent to create a professional space that remains respectful of the neighborhood's character. The proposed change to the residential office seems to align with the city's goals of providing a transition between more intense commercial development that's coming in that area and the residential areas that have been established. So there's already a precedent for office use in this block, and the limited size and scope of the proposed audiology practice does not appear out of step. That said, I think that we must remain cautious about potential cumulative impacts, and I want to thank Commissioner May for somewhat educating me in the past on some of these problems, thinking forward, and Commissioner Nemec also brought them up again tonight. So any approval we grant today runs with the land, and that could shape how the future land use decisions evolve in this area. The parking reduction, for instance, may be reasonable in this case due to the scale of the use, but it may not always be, and we should avoid creating expectations for easy variance approvals going forward. So overall, I'm inclined to support the request based on the merits and conditions as presented, but I do have a question for the counselor. Traditionally in Florida, conditional use permits go with the land, but there is the possibility that a conditional permit could be to the applicant. Is that correct? It's possible to create a cup for the applicant?
It is possible. It is also possible to set a time limit, an expiration date, things like that.
So if we did a conditional use permit granted specifically to Dr. Blair Handy for audiology practice, could become null and void upon the sale or transfer of the property, or if approved use ceases for more than 180 days, would that be reasonable? Because I would like to propose that we add on to this and create it specifically for Dr. Hardy. She's doing something very good, but the commissioners bring up a very good point. And that, I am familiar with the property. I walked this town extensively and happen to know this property from the last time we talked about this. And where she's talking about is literally the demarcation line between old residential and the commercial property coming up. In fact, if she puts a sidewalk there, I don't think there's actually a sidewalk there currently. So she's going to put a little sidewalk in for just her property. So I'm very supportive of this, but is there a possibility that we could tie it specifically to Dr. Blair Handy?
Well, Commissioner, you've chosen your words very carefully, and, asking about a possibility, as Mr. Spock said in Star Trek II, there are always possibilities. But if you did want to have such a condition, then it would have to be tied to the health, safety, welfare. So you as a commission would have to make findings that such a restriction is necessary for health, safety, or welfare. Personally, I think that's a high burden for this commission to meet based on this fact scenario. The reason why is because in Florida, as in many states, there's a high burden to restrict someone's ability to, what we say, alienate a property, meaning convey or sell. And this would kind of act as a restriction on the alienation on the property because it loses an entitlement. So in order to justify that big of a restriction, I'm not saying you can never recommend that, and I think you can recommend it to the city council. My advice to the city council ultimately will be, I don't know based on this factual record that specific restriction will survive scrutiny. I think an expiration can survive scrutiny a lot easier, things like that.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions at the time, Chairman, but I may reserve the right to come back and ask a couple more later. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Hoisington.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Very interesting discussion that we just had about making it to the individual. Based on the conversation that we had about these same items before, and that the applicant has gone back and basically did what we requested, I think staff did an excellent job in pointing out the issues that were brought up before, as well as council. I am prepared to move forward and support this. I do, if there are other questions and further discussions, that I may have other questions, but based on what I've heard, based on what I've read, we've had the discussion on the landscaping. The applicant said before that they were willing to do the landscaping. We had the discussion on medical materials being there. I think everything has been covered. I thank staff for coming back and making it clear on what is expected and what the intent is, and I'm ready to move forward for the vote.
Okay, thank you very much. Commissioner Tadona.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much for bringing up the tailored to the individual. That was part of my learning curve, so thank you very much for that we could do stuff like that. A lot of the stuff we covered the last time, so as I understand it, we're working out of the home, we're not living in the home. Is there anything that's going to be modified in the home? Because we keep saying we're going to convert the home to a medical office. Is there anything that's going to be modified that would impact building and fire codes?
Yes, thank you. For change of use, the building department's going to require that it meets code for handicap accessibility, the width of the hallway, things like that. The only thing that's going to be modified would be the interior of the facility, and then that's under the building department and the building officials code.
Okay, so there will be some renovations inside to meet
yes.
the code of a wheelchair or
Yeah,
accessible to
there could be a
doorways
wall
and
taken
things.
down, to make
Okay.
it more accessible.
Okay, thank
Sure,
you.
Thank you.
The only other thing that in section 2, it says, and maybe I'm just reading it wrong, part of my learning curve. The hours of operation shall be limited to Monday through Friday, 8 to 6, but in the agenda item, it says that it's Tuesday through Thursday, 10 to 2:30. Am I reading into something that I shouldn't be reading into?
No, you are correct that Section 2, Item 2 was put in there. Staff likes to allow the applicant the possibility if she starts gaining additional clients.
Okay.
We don't want her to come back and say, well, now I got clients on Monday.
Okay.
So we modeled it after typical businesses, offices setting. So that's what we put in there. You'll see on some of the stuff, we'll actually put a little buffer in there in case they do inch up a little bit. And in this case, staff felt it would be reasonable Monday through Friday, 8 to 6.
Okay, so
So-
it gives Doc some wiggle room as the practice grows, instead of just doing it 2
That is
days a
correct.
week, 3 days a week, 4 patients, 5 patients. Now she's got, 20 or 30 patients.
Either that, or she might have somebody that can only come on a Friday.
Right.
So, it gives her the ability to shift days around instead of coming back and go, well, you know what, I'm getting more requests for a Friday instead of a Tuesday.
Okay.
So we did put that in there to give her some flexibility.
Okay, thank you, John. So the only, I don't want to say the last item that I have, but I see 5 parking spots. I'm not saying I'd be happy with 4 to make sure the trees stay, but where you've got the overlay with the 5 parking spots, it looks like there's nothing gonna happen to the trees. So, sorry for a minor tangent, in Clermont, we take down trees like it's going out of style, and then we put up something that may or may not even be a tree. I'm just gonna say, if there's any way you could get those 5 spots in there and keep those trees there so it separates the dentist office to whatever, I think that would be awesome. Whatever else you may or may not put in there, so that it is aesthetically pleasing to your patients, to the people in the neighborhood, so it just doesn't look like this antiseptic, sterile concrete. I mean, I grew up in Brooklyn, everything was concrete. Your lawn was green concrete. So if there's anything that can be done to keep as much stuff there, so your patients have like a little moment when they're walking in, or a moment when they're walking out. I guess that's the only kind of comment that I would say. Just try to keep it as green as possible, please. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Just a couple of questions for staff. So before we had this before us to change the future land use from medium density residential to downtown mixed use, and now it's residential office. And the intent in that is to ease the transition from more downtown proper to kind of downtown adjacent residential.
Yeah, again, we were taking direction from the comments made during planning and zoning and city council as well. Ms. May brought up spot zoning. Again, from a staff's perspective, the original application, we were thinking, hey, downtown mixed use is growing outward, but not so in this case. We looked at, the accounting office that was catty corner from this, and this is the direction we decided to go.
Yeah.
In terms of that.
And this provides a little bit more of an easier
It does.
ease of transition
It
from
does.
that downtown
That is
to
correct.
residential.
Mhm.
And in this situation, to also quell some of those concerns that were addressed a couple of months ago, was that this is not changing the zoning. This is only requesting to change the future land use, not the zoning.
That is correct.
Yeah,
That
and I
is
think
correct.
that was a concern
That
that
is
was
correct.
present the last time. With regard to the parking, you mentioned in the staff report on page 25 that one of the conditions for the CUP was to do 5 instead of 8. And just to clarify on that with the 8, if all of those 8 were to be able to be accommodated on the parcel, they would be private to that entity,
That is correct.
correct? And so in this case, by working with the applicant and city staff and public works, saying we can work with them in the right of way, those 5 spots, again, to bring up that point of this is an additional 5 spots of public right of way parking that obviously will be utilized by the patients who come to see Dr. Handy, but also available to the general public at large.
And again, that's something I would need clarification from our city attorney on. I know that a portion of the spaces are going to be in the right of way, not the whole space, but again, that's something that, and I was looking for, yes, Dr. Perez's, some of his spaces, so that is correct. There was something done to where there were public spaces.
Yeah.
And I think it was more of an easement put over it. So
Sure.
there is something that would be done.
Be done at some point. And I appreciate staff. I appreciate the applicant working with staff. You know, I certainly supported the small business endeavor 2 months ago and support it here today. And I think that, you know, sometimes we don't get what we try to take our first crack at, and while frustrating or upsetting, we pulled everybody together. City staff came back, you guys came back to the table, listened to the concerns and addressed those concerns. So I commend the applicant, I commend staff for doing that. And I think that, you know, really, I understand some concerns relative to, like that mixed use, downtown mixed use. And I do think this is a unique opportunity for us to look at it from a different standpoint of residential office. You know, and because this neighborhood is downtown adjacent, it does have that kind of feel of, okay, what is the future? Well, the future land use really guides that. And right now it does say residential. And until that gets changed, it has to comply with that or come back to starting with us and then working through city council to move something forward. So I think the process, by having the future land use of that whole block be residential, medium density residential, should hopefully give some comfort to the rest of the folks who live full-time in that neighborhood and on that block to know that anything else would require the process, the signs, the notifications, the hearings, the meetings, et cetera. So it wouldn't just be something that they could do. And you know, and this is not necessarily unique to Clermont, even in this area, or, you know, Grand Highway at home and the bank there. There's so many houses there that have been somewhat converted to some businesses in that way too. So I think it's keeping the density lower by what's being proposed, but also maybe providing some enhancements to new additional greenery. I hear what Commissioner Tadona is saying about the parking. I think if I'm looking at the pictures correctly, maybe there's just that one palm tree in the center that may get, and I don't mean just, but I think that's the one that would obviously have to come out. But the applicant's indicating that they're willing to comply with code and make sure that they spruce that up and provide that green space for the neighborhood. So I think that's a good thing too. I will too. I think the idea of the specific CUP kinds of parameters that Commissioner Kramer came up with here or talked about is worthy of some conversation. And I think, you know, I almost wonder if we could somehow, as a commission, maybe next month at our meeting when we're talking about process and things, we come up with some, I guess, bring ideas to the meeting of what we might want to look at for future planning and zoning, and maybe we ask the city council, would you be willing to sit down and workshop with us on some of these things? Because ultimately, because we are a recommendation body, you know, what I don't want to do is create situations where folks are even more frustrated because we're trying to do some different things and everything is not getting listened to and the city council doesn't have an appetite for it. But I think if we could bring the 5 of them and the 7 of us together and have a conversation about, do we want as a community to look at making CUPs time-bound or applicant-specific, and in what situations would we do that to meet health, safety, welfare concerns that legal ramifications might come in? That might be a great conversation that in my knowledge, I don't think we've ever had in the city with the 2 entities.
The city of Mineola has joint
Yes,
workshops, by
absolutely.
the way, with the
In fact,
city
they have a
council
council
and
member who
planning.
attends their planning and
Correct.
zoning
Yeah.
commission. So I think there are some opportunities there for us to do that. But I'm a little apprehensive about making that kind of more on the cuff or on the fly, I should say, with something like this without really looking more into that and addressing that. So I'd be more comfortable personally as approving it as presented. But any other final conversations or questions? Yeah, Commissioner May?
Yes, just wanted to verify that the medium density residential was between 8 to 12 units to the acre, as well as the residential office. The density remains the same as well.
medium density is usually 8, and high density is 12. But with the adjoining central business district or downtown mixed use, that they could go up to 12. The residential office sounds like it would be in line with that.
It's in line, so I just wanted, and it's 0.25 FAR, I believe it's the same.
Yeah, the FAR is definitely the same.
It's the same, okay. Just wanted to put that on record. That's the same.
Great. Commissioner Nemec?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, if I may. John, on this page, just refresh my memory, on your first page on the SSCPA, on the bottom you have 2 pictures. All right, you had the, there you go, perfect. Could you just bring to my memory what the red code stands for? Because I know what the green and the light tan and
What color?
red, right in the bottom. Well, it's not red on your screen, but
Oh, it's commercial.
that's commercial.
It's commercial.
Okay, so if I'm not mistaken, there's commercial right abut from the block 88.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. I just also would like to thank Commissioner Kramer. That was really impressive, and I'm surprised we didn't think of that before. But like you said, we cannot. I agree with Mr. Chairman Baines. We can't just go on a fly and make that. That would make my decision a lot easier. Right now, I'm still on the borderline because of this parking situation, and if they sell it, that's where I'm standing. Okay, no other further questions from me.
Any other?
Can
Yeah, Mr. Cruz, thank you.
just to point this out for Mr. Nemec's concern, in the conditional use permit, item number 12, it does talk about an event that parking at this site proves inadequate, the city reserves the right to open it up. So we normally put that in there regarding parking. And then also above that, should the professional office cease operation for more than 180 days, a new conditional use permit would need to be applied for. So there are some timing in there, and then also with the parking as well.
Thank you. I did read that, and that's why I was hopping on this question with Mr. Kramer. Okay, thank you, Mr.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
So I'd like, without calling for a vote yet or anything, I'm trying to get a feel, should I offer a potential amendment to the conditional use permit for us to consider, making it apply only to Dr. Blair Handy? Or do we feel like we're going to approve this without additional?
Yeah, I think there's 2 options available to the commissioners. We can, a commissioner can move the item as presented, and another and it would have to have a second.
Okay.
And then an additional commissioner could offer an amendment to that motion, or it could be moved as amended. So a person could make a motion with the amendment included in the original motion, and then it would need a second and conversation. So there are 2 ways to go about that. I think it's a matter of whatever whom wants to make the motion wants to make.
I will say that I will approve it as this. I'm not approving an amendment. I understand, and I think it's very well intended. I think there needs to be more discussion. I don't think we need to be tweaking it. So I personally will support it as written, but if it's amended, I will not support that.
Understood. I was only asking to try to help push this through, not try to slow it down. So I respect your
Yeah, I
thoughts.
think the city attorney had mentioned that probably an expiration would be best handled, and I think they had already, I mean, based on what I'm reading here, should the professional office cease operations for more than 100 days, 80 days, which is the expiration that the city attorney had mentioned would be better language. I believe that that's the expiration, so I'm okay with that. So because if it does come to us, so the question is, if they came to us and they wanted to turn it back to residential, then it would be fine. Right?
Yeah, that is correct.
Of course,
because
nobody would do that because it's already an office.
And again, down here, it says the site may also be used for any permitted use in the R3 residential. professional zoning, so residential is allowed, so if they wanted to convert it back, it wouldn't come back to you. The office, after 180 days, would fall off and the CUP
Right,
would
and any
no
other
longer exist.
uses would have to come to us anyways because it's a brand-new use besides a professional office. So,
Anything that's permitted, they wouldn't have to come back to you, but any conditional use would.
right. So I see the expiration. I just wanted, you had mentioned that and I just saw that. I put a check mark, so that for me satisfies the expiration. But Commissioner Kramer, wow, you kind of opened my eyes on that particular one. Yes, thank you.
All right. If there's no further discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
Well, then I'd like to make a motion.
Okay?
I recommend approval of resolution number 2025-011R.
Well,
Is that?
nope, item number 1 is first. So the
Number one?
first one would
I'm
be
sorry. I've
the
turned the
ordinance
wrong page.
2025-022.
I make a motion to recommend approval of ordinance number 2025-022.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Kramer. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Colby. Any final discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Motion carries 7-0. And I would entertain a motion for item number 2.
Can I get it right this time?
Yeah.
All right. I recommend that we approve resolution number 2025-011R.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Commissioner Nemec. Moved by Commissioner Kramer, seconded by Mr. Nemec. Any final any final comments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Motion carries 7-0. Just for the applicant's information, this will now get forwarded to the City Council with the recommendation of approval by the Planning and Zoning Commission, and will be heard, and make sure you work with staff on when those agenda items will be presented to the council. Thank you. Any final discussion of any non-agenda items? Seeing none, I will adjourn the meeting.
Huh? 4th of July? Oh, that was the other thing. The next meeting, yeah. A lot of us will probably be out of town. Thanks for making it. Thank you. Wow, that was awesome. I love your speech. Both speeches. by the way. I appreciate your speech on the reports and your. Yeah. But I'm glad they put the expiration date. I didn't see that. Oh, you did good. Thank you. Have a good night. Dude, check it out.
Nice job.
Nice seeing you. Always good. Always a pleasure.
Did you know you were Las Vegas?
Yeah. Hopefully that doesn't hold against me. It's so funny when people go. When people.
Of course, it's action adventure.